I know you've been paying attention to kind of like the landscape of this kind of content, these general toxic types for a while. Do you feel like there's been any kind of shift in the landscape of it of late?
Yeah, I would say there's been a few shifts. I think the Birdman's video on the Critical Drinker has really shifted a few things here and there. With such a big high-profile account talking about techniques in how certain grifters do their thing, how certain people act, that really pushed a lot of people into like re-examining, discussing. I've even seen in some circles the Critical Drinker's own subreddit kind of rallying and pushing back against some of his claims, which I think is a big deal.
Oh wow!
To a small degree. Not necessarily to a big one, but there's been some shifts here and there. And that's how it is with any audience. Eventually, they kind of do some drift in, some drift out. You know, that's the name of the game.
Yeah.
I've been, of course, really stuck in the whole Lily Orchard situation, considering that she can't stand me. And there's been some back and forth on that front. But even with the big thing I've been seeing a lot of is the whole thing with Star Wars theory the last few months. That's ridiculous. He's been targeting, was it Forbes? Forbes like last week, I'm pretty sure. He's still doing.
Yeah.
Forbes writer before that. I mean, it's still ongoing, I guess. It's the Star Wars Explained channel. It's like they managed to turn a call for accountability, demonetization against 3 specific YouTubers. They turned that into him being attacked and the people that did it being Star Wars Explained. It's like the way that they controlled that fucking narrative is kind of blew my mind. And I guess, I don't know what to do about that.
Well, what happens is when he talks, his audience responds. And the tricky thing with Star Wars Theory is that he didn't start off as a grifting channel. He started off as a genuine critical response channel. And I think that and over time, from what I've seen, he's fed more into that whole circle, like showing up with, was it the Friday Night Tights or whatever, Friday Night Lights or whatever, that whole circle. So I think it's been a gradual alteration of his channel, but it doesn't help that Star Wars is that one avenue through which a lot of here's the thing, Star Wars is not consistently great. There's a lot of things with Star Wars that are problematic and messy and not that great. So I feel like it's a right ground for disappointed fans to go down the pipeline. Because Star Wars has never been as good as you remember it being. Whatever it might be, it's always been slightly worse than last year, no matter what last year was.
Yeah.
So it's a great ground for that culture. And
a lot of those channels, and you mentioned about how like they transformed or some of them started out other ways.
Yeah.
If you go to these channels and you hit like oldest on their videos and go back to see what they were doing, most of the channels, if they're not newer channels, started out completely different than where they ended up with the grifty stuff. Like just going to Ryan Cannell's channel, if you go back 5 years, he's making sort of edgy videos, but not the outright hate content that he makes now. You know what I mean?
100%. Well, did you see Dead Domain's video on the Synthetic Man?
Yes.
Yeah. That whole thing was just the guy went down the pipeline in real time, like sharp down the pipeline, like further past, Ryan Cannell and Geek Gamers, but
unique.
Actually, I interviewed Dead Domain for the series we're doing.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, they're really cool.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Awesome content. Like the deep dives and stuff. Where'd they go in the cover? That CPAC.
They did CPAC before that. It was the that hate church that
There was the Catholic church, there's the one Christian church, the one satanic temple. No, they're they do some really good stuff. I have a lot of respect for Dead Domain. They were very generous to me when I was having controversy of my own a couple months ago, and I respect that deeply.
I don't think Benny Johnson will be available now, but I tried to get an interview. Turning Point USA is going to be, I'm in Phoenix, and they're going to be out here in December. So I
Oh, there you go.
It's like, hey, we want to interview Benny Johnson, and yeah, like I almost want to like just write back, be like, assuming he won't be available now because I got no response at all.
Yeah,
Maybe it's a possibility of that.
So,
No.
I wonder if you've seen this these clips here that I someone sent me these the other day, and it's pretty incredible. You know, just of Star Wars theory. A few different examples of just kind of how they I guess he had a show with Mahler, and then I suppose Ryan Kendall was on there often as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
I recall seeing
couple of
that.
incidents here, just like, oh man, kind of reveals the nature of what they know what they're doing, kind of thing.
I think it looks like somebody's having their period and just decided to wipe it right by that lightsaber. I feel like there should be like I think it just means there's gonna be a lot of women.
Oh,
they're all gonna be synced up. That's what I think.
He got back in for a split second, Ryan, and booted him right out again.
He came in before I could give the punchline, so that's on him. But I think it's supposed to be just blood, and it's like, hey, this is dark and
edgy, but
gritty and violent.
In an age of light, a darkness rises.
Yeah. They don't just mean the skin tone of the main character.
Wait, is River in this?
Well then.
Because we get introduced that they're really the best. Respect your pronouns, I must. That's the kind of fucking Yoda we're gonna get in this one.
Does Star Wars theory just jump in and out of streams like this? Like, what's going on?
I think we
Here's
got
I like
clip that now.
No, listen to what he says right here. This gives it all away right here.
Oh,
I think we got
good. I like it.
Can clip that now. All right, I wasn't in the frame.
Yeah, I think you're good.
Well, there you go. He doesn't want to be seen saying that because
he doesn't want to be on there where Ryan does his shit. Yeah.
I mean,
and the thing is also he knows full well that online it's not going to be the whole 10-hour stream they're gonna watch. They're gonna watch the 30-second clip. It's gonna go all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't know what else he said about the Acolyte. They just know he was talking about screws and like bolts and bricks and all that. They don't know what the rest he was saying. There's another one.
I feel like those guys are great deflection. Like when I say those guys, I mean like Ryan and Heel versus Babyface and these outrageous guys. They are great deflection for the moderate bigotry that goes on there, because you can get on there and say some really crazy shit, but you're not Ryan Cannell, you're not and those are the ones that everybody clips and talks about. So it's sort of.
And I think they're well aware of that too. Like, I mean, one example of that I'm pretty confident this is what they were doing was whenever they had Gavin McInnes on, and he at the very end of it being on, he pulled out an allegedly fake penis and allegedly fake urinator all over his desk or whatever. And then that's what, of course, became that everybody clipped that. That's what people talked about of his appearance on there. And it's like nobody's going back and listening to what all kind of fashy kind of traded shit where they agreed on.
Do you say he whipped out his dick and urinated on his desk?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you've seen that?
Why?
I mean,
good question.
Fortunately, I know a little bit about the guy.
That's just for a few minutes for minutes on the desk.
I mean,
just ruined perfectly good work.
In that stream in particular, it's very clear that Gavin doesn't care about any of the shit they're talking about. He doesn't care about superheroes, doesn't care about Star Wars, doesn't care about any of the shit. And so he's just there in the center of the screen to be present. And he seems really annoyed. And he stands up and just whips it out. There's really no
but like children do that when they're angry.
Yeah.
Like the 4-year-old poops his pants to get the attention of his parents. Like you don't pee on your wooden desk. That shit costs money. I mean, I guess you can afford it in super chats, I suppose, but like that shit costs a little bit of money there.
Well, they wanted to act like it was fake, except when it happened, they took the stream down and edited the clip out, even though they're like, oh, this was fake. Well, if it wasn't real, why did you completely remove the stream?
You couldn't tell whether it was really a real penis or not. You just can't tell in the video. So therefore, like it, for all intents and purposes, you might as well think of it as real, because if for the point that we had about it was that it was not age restricted, the video.
No. None of the content is.
The good tell is if it's above a certain size, it was probably fake. It's probably
the thing about my whole thing about that was like whether it was real or fake, that's still inappropriate to put on YouTube.
Yeah.
So
God,
like, the fact that it was even there,
100%.
like, is just ridiculous. It's like
100%. You get in trouble on YouTube just for showing a little bit of too much ankle sometimes.
Yep.
Forget like you show a clavicle, forget it. You're demonetized. No, forget it. No way.
It shows too, like having Gavin on, it just shows how like desperate these people are for like validation from people that don't give a shit about them. Like they want Matt Walsh to think they're so cool. But like Matt Walsh and those people like don't give a damn. They think this stuff is so stupid, so corny. And then like all the geeks and gamers get like riled up of like, why don't they get it? This stuff is cool and it's being ruined. And I'm just like,
I think there's a little bit more to it, though. I think that they kind of I'm sure they want the approval of these guys, but at the same time, they also just want to signal to an audience that this is what they're about, right? Like by having Alex Jones on, by having Gavin McInnes on, they're saying to potential new audience members like, hey, these are our guys. We're about this shit right here. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. That's kind of how I've read that stuff too, but.
Well, I'd also say to an extent, it's like any group that wants Senpai to notice them. Yeah. The moment Senpai notices you, it means you made it. It means you can get the good deals. You can get the bucks, the money. I think a lot of these guys are in it for the money. And
oh yeah,
you don't pull a move that demonetizes yourself if you think that it's going to if that's the end of it. They're thinking long term. They're thinking, or they're not thinking. It's one of the two. It's either 4D chess, or they're morons, and there's no middle ground.
I know.
I want to believe it's 4D chess because that's the less
I
frustrating.
believe there's quite a few morons in there too.
Yeah,
there's morons for sure.
Or someone who's really dumb who thinks they're playing 4D chess.
Yeah. There's useful idiots who like don't know why they're being paid to say the things they are, and then the Venn diagram is just so weird. It really is.
Well, I'll tell you this too. Some of it is just ego. I think a good example would be Shadiversity. Someone like him, he's just saying whatever comes to mind, and he's not really thinking through the extent of what he's saying. Like he has a specific science that he understands, historical weaponry. That's his field. He knows medieval weaponry to the extent he knows it at. But when it comes to anything else, he's a wet match in a dark cave, and that's clear from his commentary. That's clear from what he says. I've been working right now with recently the whole Lily Orchard thing. I've been gone, and she's not. And Lily Orchard, she is not she's not right wing. Well, she claims she's left wing. I think she's more centrist right, but that's beside the point. You see a lot of the same patterns between her and people like Shadiversity and all those other guys. They both think they're smarter than they really are. They both say things that kind of puts themselves at odds with their own party to make themselves seem like the reasonable party.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you push their knowledge a little too far, and they show how little they know.
So this is a censored version of this clip, and it's a very short one, even though it's 4 minutes. It's at the very beginning of this clip. I just wanted to show how this all went down so you can get the context. There's a lot of people in chat.
Please show me the
uncensored back in the day.
There we go.
Jesus.
Oh, it's uncensored. I can't believe it. The left is censoring our media.
It's already started.
So sorry.
Oh,
Jesus
Christ.
Christ.
Oh my God. Sorry, guys. Whoa.
And there it is.
So literally just stands up and starts like peeing on his desk. So
okay, hang on. So I think RK's okay with this. He had to know.
He loves it.
Yeah, you can tell a couple of them knew about it ahead of time for sure.
Oh yeah,
like
he's probably thinking the whole time.
Oh,
we're gonna
sorry,
clip this.
Oh, he's so giddy about it.
Yeah.
And there
he's secretly pissing under his desk as well.
No. He's thinking.
Look at their face. Look at the responses. It looks like the ladies down at the bottom probably didn't know this was going to happen.
Right. That's what I remember thinking back then too. Is like the women did not know.
I didn't tell them.
And yeah.
But
and
look at Ryan. Ryan is the only one that seems completely unfazed, and Nerdrotic is like, oh, okay. But Ryan is just like, oh, yeah.
But like, how do you react to that? Like, that's the thing. How do you? I don't know how I'd react to it. So I have a hard time judging anyone's expressions on that front. I would probably just like, I would just be like, I'd have the delayed reaction. I'd be like,
am I on?
Yeah, I would have the delayed, like 30 seconds later, have the wait. Hang on, did I see this song?
Yeah,
so I can't judge anyone's
stream
reaction
is this
to that.
again?
Yeah,
I'm like, I didn't know this was the OnlyFans page. I thought
I will also say
I'm ready for that.
This is what makes me question sometimes YouTube's ability to like moderate their own site. If any other channel, a smaller channel, would have done something even remotely close to that, the channel would be completely gone from YouTube.
Yeah,
100%.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll tell you this: I've gotten a few videos demonetized recently. You know, a couple, not many, just one or two here and there. And usually, I think, well, what could it have been? It was just me talking. It was me sitting down in a chair and talking. And I think, oh, I had a guest on. Maybe the guest said dropped an F-bomb in the first 30 minutes of the video. And it's like, that's the only thing I think of, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I did a video on, again, Lily Orchard again. I'm sure it's a topic I brought up at least 5 times so far in this stream. I mentioned, I used it as an excuse to discuss tons of media I would never be able to discuss otherwise, you know, on my channel. One of which was the movie I Spit on Your Grave. Have you seen that movie? Have you ever heard of I Spit on Your Grave? Okay, so if you've seen that, you know, okay. So Eric knows what I'm going to talk about right now. Or Eric, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Eric knows what I'm talking about. But I want to make sure I wasn't saying it wrong. I found I was saying De La Rue's wrong this whole time, so I'm not even going to go into that one. Anyway, so the thing is, if you know the plot of the movie, I won't repeat it to don't get demonetized. I only got my video demonetized when discussing it. That's the only thing I think of that got that video demonetized, because nothing else in it is remotely explicit. But that plot, you can't describe the plot of I Spit on Your Grave without mentioning a very specific thing that happens in the movie. It's the entire first half of the movie. So I think that's what it was that got my stream demonetized. And that's just mentioning it. That's saying a word, one singular word, versus deciding to take a sprinkler out on your nice wooden desk. You know, it's come down to. Now I know what to tell you. People are weird. Oh my goodness!
Well, just don't say grape, except it's not grape. No.
Yeah. There's a lot of things you have to say, like you have to code the words to get through with YouTube. Like I know on TikTok you have to use unalive when you talk about any kind of death at all. Like it's unaliving, or you know.
I think YouTube's a little more safe than that. I think.
But, Brad looked shocked by that one. Yeah, on TikTok,
that's wild.
You can't say murder or kill or anything. You have to say unalive.
I've noticed like that even with like an assassination. Like I'll notice like the word assassination like have asterisks in it, and then I'm like, that's if it's assassination attempt, it's like,
actually
can't talk about community.
That's because of the ass.
Yeah, I actually think it's because they don't want to really moderate their service, so they just block out anything that might be controversial.
Well, how can you moderate it? You know, how can you physically moderate that many videos? That's the problem. It's just too big. You know, like the only thing you do is employ programs which are imperfect by nature, and you know.
Well, your boy Zach here on YouTube, the Richard Meyer, said that he's moving to TikTok. He's going to start making content for TikTok.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good luck.
Probably
interesting.
To do with the views that we were on his channel that we were looking at yesterday.
Does he have only a few hundred views every video now? Like what?
Yeah, he made a video kind of complaining that he pissed off initially the SJWs, which he didn't care about because of all of his views. Now he says he's pissed off the he calls them the birthday party clowns, which is basically the Fandom Menace group, the fellowship. He's pissed them off, so now they don't like him. So now he has no one listening to him, and you know, he feels like he'd be better off going on another platform than trying to make content on YouTube.
That's not true. We listened to him yesterday. We listened to a video where he almost definitely was referring to us a couple of times.
I actually think the other thing is that it's sketchy. He's probably lying, but I think the thing is that we're seeing right now, we talked about this last week, that there seems to be this division forming in that community where people are seeing the extremity of how far they'll go to be like sexist, misogynistic, racist, all of these things. And the people that aren't quite as pieces of shit as some of the other ones are like, oh, that's too far. That's not really what we signed on for. We should be calling out actual wokeness and stuff. And you're just saying that everything with women is bad. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of what we said they were going to do from the beginning, because you could see that was the direction they were going. So we're seeing this like wall form between like members of that community. So
I mean, it's just a continued version, you know, another entry into the Shudpocalypse, right?
When you look at that too, you know, you look back to like there was the one, it just went viral again on certain communities. The one list on Steam of woke games not to support, you know,
Cabrutus.
Yeah, it's been going on for a while, but like that went back into play when they said that the Wukong game was too woke for them. That Space Marines 2 was too woke for them. And like the problem is, here's the thing: some games, they're just not good, right? Some games just aren't fun to play. They're not well designed. They just aren't compelling. They don't catch the lightning in a bottle thing that people need. But in those games, yeah, make fun of them, you know, blame it on it being woke. No one's going to care. You get a game that they like. You say, that's too woke for you. They're going to hold on, wait a second. I like that game.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that game? I enjoyed it. You know, you saw an extent with that with Baldur's Gate, how it won every single award last year. And people were going like, that's too woke. There's too much gay stuff in it. I'm like, but it's one of the most popular games in the world right now. People love it. And they struggled with that grift for a little bit, and then they stopped because they realized they're going to lose that battle. It's easier to make fun of a game no one's playing because the game just isn't appealing for whatever reason than a game they like. And the fact that those lists are targeting those games they like, well, they're going to be a little more like it's easy to hate on a Star Wars game. Star Wars is brand. Star Wars is there's a recognition there.
Yeah.
The moment you say something that they support as an underdog, that's when you get angry. Like, what was it? Stellar Blade a while back?
Stellar Blade, yeah.
People were, the game is okay. It's a fine game.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't but when they played it, they were like, oh my God, they got rid of 2 costumes where they showed shoulders.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. By putting a slight amount of fabric on there, by changing it slightly. And that's too much for me. I can't take it anymore. You know,
they reduced their boobs to double E's.
Well, I mean, that's the thing right there, isn't it? Like you take something they're familiar with that they like, and you just push it just too far. Yeah, it's like a minute difference. You can't even tell. Like you'd have to be
minute.
Like,
speak for yourself.
Oh, she has glasses on. That's it. Which I think honestly. Those are nice glasses. I like the glasses.
Yeah, really good glasses.
I also Grums. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Grums or not, but
unfortunately, I have.
So
he's a classy fellow.
He was saying, and I think that he's like notorious for deleting tweets if he thinks that he's on the wrong side of some sort of argument. So he made a tweet where he said that the Ghost of Tsushima sequel, Ghost of Yotai, didn't look woke to him yet, but he's keeping his eye on it. And then he started to notice that people were going, oh, this is still woke. And then all of a sudden he deleted that tweet. I think it's gone now. And now he hasn't said anything about it. And the only thing that game that we know is female protagonists. We've seen like 4 pictures of that game. We know that it takes place 300 years after the original, and people are still complaining about it. And this is where one of the divisions is in the community, is that nothing about that game says anything woke or DEI or anything like that. But the problem is they're running out of targets. And so they have to pick anything and everything they can to sort of drag down. And you either get in line or you're an op. And that's the way it's going to be with these guys. If you're not on board with this, you're not part of the club anymore. And that's really where they are.
Well, you should be targeting the voice actress for the main character in that more than anything else, which is separate from the game. Because it's easy to point to someone who's a well-known, and she's pretty well-known in the community of like in Dungeons and Dragons and voice acting. Like she's not a very obscure person.
She's done a lot of stuff,
ton of stuff, So you get angry at Ghost of Tsushima, the sequel, whatever, for having one voice actress you don't like. Well, you boycott a lot of other things too.
Like this whole situation with Ghost of Yotai, I mean, there's many examples that show just like the ridiculousness of these types of people, right? But like, because a lot of people were because everyone knew that soon they were going to announce Ghost of Tsushima 2, right? Like it was around this time, And a lot of people were using it, being like, "Oh, once this gets announced, it is over for Assassin's Creed Shadows." Which is also being bombarded for having a black samurai and a female character. And those are like the 2 playable characters. They're like, oh, Ghost of Tsushima 2 is going to destroy this. And then it comes out, and all they really know about it is that it's a new protagonist, right? It's from a studio that made an incredible game. There is no reason to assume that this game is going to be bad, right? Like, there's no evidence of that. Everyone has been excited for it, but then they see that, oh, it's a woman, and then they just lose their fucking minds and they completely switch up on it. And it's like, it should be so easy to realize. Like, there's no consistency in these arguments. There's no consistency to this ideology.
Well, you think of it this way too. There was the Minecraft movie that came out. A movie that looks absolutely terrible by any metric of the word.
Yeah.
It looks like garbage. And everyone with eyes can see it looks like garbage. And I can point to 100 reasons why it looks like garbage. But every single one of these right-wing grifters who looked at it went, "Up, there's a black woman in it. That means it's going to be bad." And they missed 50 other things. That's the thing right there. Like, you're missing the real awfulness of this, the cynical marketing of it, the bad effects, the terrible integration of the idea, the sloppy isekai plot line that they're clearly going with. Like, there's a lot of it's derivative and bad, and but like, you're missing that to focus on the fact that one of the characters in it, who's like not even like one of the big draws of the film, happens to be a woman of color. That right there is what they're obsessed with, and it's kind of proof there that their complaints are kind of superficial. I think anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
I was gonna say about the Minecraft movie. I feel sorry for all the artists who are working on it, because like, obviously this is a studio mandate thing. They bought this thing and they're making a movie out of something that really doesn't even have a narrative. Feel sorry for everybody working on it, because it's like it's a losing battle.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
I just hope they get paid and they put more jobs after. That's what matters,
hopefully. Yeah,
but I mean, hopefully, if they don't get paid, that is breaking a lot of labor laws.
Yeah. But I mean, kind of what you were saying with like, it is so obvious. We a couple of weeks ago we had the Birdman on here, and at one point we talked about the Lightyear movie, right? And Bobby also mentioned this, but it's like there are things I don't like about that movie, right? I don't think it's a horrible movie, right? But it's like, I do think it has some problems, and I'm finding people have problems with it. But so many people just hyper focused on the fact that there was like a split second like gay kiss in it.
The hardcore gay sex scene, is that what you're talking about?
Oh yeah, exactly. Just that one. And it's like, and it's nothing. And when you compare it to any other kids animated movie, right? Like, most of them have like a kiss in some shape or form. Some of them are like way more explicit, I mean, compared to like child movies. But it's like, with the people who don't care about all of that and every other kids animated movie, but they hyperfixate on this one just because it's a gay kiss, like, there is no other conclusion than the fact that you're homophobic about it.
Well, I'll say this too, in regards to the gay kissing in movies. I always think about Sailor Moon, which is one of my all-time favorite anime, personally. I love Sailor Moon. I think it's a great show. When it first came out, back in the day, there was all this controversy about the same kisses in that show. There was Uranus and Neptune. There was Zoisite and Kunzite. There was Fisheye and all the guys that he was attracted to. Multiple queer characters, arguably Sailor Moon herself. I did a whole video on Sailor Moon too, about why I think all the characters aren't straight. There's any straight characters in that whole show, but that's a more of a theory than anything else. Point is, that whole show got a massive campaign of fans going, "Wait, why are we censoring all this LGBTQA stuff in the American release?" Hell, they didn't even release the last season of the show because they realized how much they have to censor for American Airwaves back in the 90s, 2000s.
Yeah.
One of my all-time favorite anime. Fans back then campaigned for more gay. And now we have these same people not the same people from Sailor Moon. They're all the fans back then actually have sense. You have these massive fandoms who are arguing, oh, everything's woke. There's too much gay in it. It's not, or Japan's not that gay. Japan's really gay, not gay at all. Meanwhile, Japan is the biggest pride march in all of Asia, in Tokyo a couple years back. Support for gay marriage privately, not publicly, is higher in Japan than almost any other country in Asia right now.
It was just like anime in general, you know, obviously having issues and there's plenty of stuff there, but like there's many anime that also has a lot of progressive and you know, I guess it was like a pro LGBT material. You know?
Oh yeah, some definitely, not all, of course, but some certainly.
Not all. Yeah,
I am a
there.
massive player of Final Fantasy 14. I've been playing it since it came out, and that game is extremely progressive. It allows your characters in the game to wear almost any article of clothing. Doesn't have gender restrictions to most clothing. You can do marriage between any genders in the game. They do have items that reflect pride in the game. It's a very pro, like, non-censored game in terms of like what kind of communities you want to cultivate, things like that. And so this is why when Grums went after Final Fantasy 14 for a very brief moment, I'm like, you don't even play the game. It is an MMO with a community in it of people that interact with each other. You are a outsider trying to judge what people that are playing the game want. When this isn't like a single player game. It's not like it's, you know, a campaign. It's literally a community driven game. And that's when they changed. They flipped a lot of the stuff in that game specifically because people that were playing it wanted that to be what the game was. And so they went in and they changed it. And this is a game made by a Japanese company. Like it's just, you know, the idea of DEI being like this whole idea that like these firms come in and force games to change things. This is literally just like a complete smoke and mirror approach to like what goes on in game development. And Final Fantasy 14 doesn't have some firm coming in telling them to make it more queer or whatever. This is what the developers wanted to do. It's what the community asked for. And that's what they did. And they can't rationalize that people who are making these games or writing these movies or making these comic books want to actually do these things. They always feel like there has to be another person out there offering them some sort of incentive to do it or forcing them to do it. They just don't want to believe that the creative people that are making this want these things to be there. It's so strange.
I mean, on that front too, speaking of Final Fantasy, I mean, I played Final Fantasy 14 a bit, not like super into the community, so I can't speak to that. Though I have played it, just not kind of suck at MMOs. Like my problem is time commitment for that. I just can't. I love them, but I just can't. I lose patience with them.
I don't want to tell you how much time I dumped into WoW.
That's the danger. I don't want to be like the South Park kids at the end of that episode. But no, the fact of the matter is, you know, there's Final Fantasy 7, which everyone's played, and that game has the scene in what is it? The carnival section, which name I'm forgetting. You could be with Barrett. You can be with any of the characters. You can be with Tifa, Aerith, Yuffie if you want, but that's underage. It's kind of weird. Or Barrett on a date by the fireworks and go on the Ferris wheel. They have the same romantic music playing no matter who you're with. So even back, it was a joke option. Sure, it wasn't taken seriously. It was like the gag ending. If you couldn't get Aerith or Tifa, you dump with Barrett. But like, that's an example right there. He could date. They could date, and that was just.
I think it's interesting because you say joke option, and I think that's a good point. Like if you look at comic books or movies or TV shows or cartoons or whatever, a lot of progress happens when you sort of allow people to laugh at the things that they're engaging with because they feel a little disarmed from it. So seeing queer people existing in the beginning, like you back to the 90s, you got like Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, you got To Wong Fu, you got all these movies that sort of made people laugh at what queer people are or who they are in the world, and it allowed for the progress we have now. Because I think we've talked about it, Dane and Bob. We and I don't know if Turf was here or not. How like you have to have some of the things that are a bit cringy to get to the actual progress you want, because opening that door is always going to be difficult. So looking back at something like that, I think that even if you look at it and you go, oh, it was for the jokes now, like you said, which I do agree with, I think that has led to more progress in gaming now and in media in general by allowing more reality to be present instead of everything just being for the laughs. And I think that's a positive.
So I'm honestly not asking this.
I'm sorry. I cut you off, Brad. I'm sorry.
No, I'm not asking this because I have some preconceived answer in my head. I honestly, Eric, until you like said that, I hadn't thought of this. So I'm not like, well, I don't even know. If this is,
I may have an objection too, but I'll throw it in after you say your thing. I'm so sorry.
It got me thinking if, like, you know, the Daily Wire making these movie like Lady Ballers and all this like crap that's coming out, but are they kind of shooting themselves in the foot too? Because maybe they're doing that same thing to their audience. You know what I mean? Like, is that going to have the opposite effect on them than what they think?
Let me
disarming them?
Yeah.
Let me ask a quick question. And this is maybe too personal. If it is, just tell me to shut up and I will. How many of you are not straight?
Oh, I'm definitely not straight.
Cool, awesome. So then, I just make sure I don't like say anything that's like pushing too far or anything like that. Just
I don't get offended by stuff.
We're not. I mean, like people, even those of us that are not like they're just straight. Basically, we're down to talk about whatever we need to talk about. You know,
I just want to make sure I don't go into the weeds on the detail. That's all I'm.
No,
you're
like, good.
You can do that.
Cool. Awesome. So obviously, like it's tricky, right? Because queer representation, and again, a lot of my content outside the grifting stuff, it's a lot about queer representation. So this is something I'm like put a lot of thought into. You know, yeah, you get some comedy, but the problem is with a lot of the humor is, yeah, it introduces the idea to a straight populace, but sometimes what it also does is it creates stereotypes that can be harmful, and no amount of humor can get rid of an idea once reinforced.
People are locked in. That's why a lot of the grifters go back to the 90s in their minds. They're like, oh, this was the golden era for gay people because of that reason.
100%. A good example of this, I was just doing a video a while back on horror films with queer rep, kind of subtly woven in. And something a lot of people, and you know, I interviewed a couple people for this, and they always brought back the same topic in all these interviews, talking about Silence of the Lambs. Now, that's a movie that, you know, the main antagonist of that, Buffalo Bill, he wants to make a women's suit.
Puts a lotion on its skin.
Yeah. And Thomas Harris, the author of the book, in the text of the story and in the script of the movie, they emphasize, hey, he's not trans. He's not a trans person. He's just a psycho. Like, he's just nuts. But he's not trans. Trans people are passive. They're not harmful. They don't do any harm. There's no association with being trans and being a criminal. But you also get that accompanied with something like, say, Dress to Kill. You get that associated with even a gag movie like Ace Ventura.
Yes.
Or Naked Gun 3.
Going back to
Psycho,
right? Like,
or Psycho. Well, Psycho too. Well, Buffalo Bill, Norman Bates, and Leatherface are all inspired in part, not directly, but in part, by Ed Gein, who was a real person who did create a suit of women who looked like his mom to dress up in, and that was his whole thing.
That's
as you do.
As you do. There's a lot. A lot with Ed Gein I can get into. He's a character. He's a horrifying character. He only killed 2 people that we know of. Did a lot of grave robbing though. But he was one of the most famous murderers, not serial killers, because you gotta have over 3 to be a serial killer in American history. If you're from Wisconsin, you'll probably live nearby. Oh yeah, exactly. He wasn't pulling in Albert Fish numbers. And, you know, unfortunately, that's one thing you want to lose at. You want to lose at the serial killer game. That's one competition, and that one, the lower number is better for society. But like, he was a real person, and a lot of authors and writers and directors and anything else have used that example to tell less than flattering stories about trans people, about queer people. But then again, without queer coding and villains, we wouldn't have had so much queer rap.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like I feel like you go back and you look at like the comics code, right? When they wouldn't allow you to tell those stories, and you end up with something like North Star, who had arguably one of the worst coming out stories that you've ever seen in comic books. With like AIDS babies and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, this is too much, right? So you have all that going on. I'm
not a fan of Iceman's coming out either, I'll have you know. But
well, that one is problematic because of the way they did it. Like, it's like, why did you? That's a whole other can of worms. But
I think they had their heart was in the right place.
if they would have used
they
that
needed
to
someone. They
tell
needed a gay person to read
a
that.
story about it.
This is the dichotomy of like the chuds when it comes to this, and I want to answer Brad's question with this as well about the whole like how if it disarms them with humor with the Daily Wire stuff and everything, is they say that what they're asking for is more authentic, true stories of just people living in the world. So that would tell me that in order for that to happen, if that's truly what they want, is you need more people at the top end making these stories, people that have lived the queer experience, people that understand what it's like to be trans, understand what it's like to be gay, bi, pan, whatever it is, writing the stories that you're making, because otherwise you end up with a sort of perception of what that is, which is fine. If you're a writer and you want to, write from your own point of view, it's fine as long as it's not going to be harmful to someone. And a lot of that comes from ignorance. And I don't mean that like as a offending somebody, oh, you're ignorant. Like it really does. There's a lot of things that I'm ignorant about. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it comes from a place of ignorance. So they're asking for more genuine stories, but that's not truly what they want, because that would mean that would put more queer people in positions of writing and directing and producing and things like that. So they're struggling with that a bit, because you can't say you want something to happen, but you don't want to give people the tools to make it happen. That just doesn't make any sense. And then the idea of disarming, which you were saying, Brad, about like lady ballers and stuff, I thought it was quite interesting. The reception to that movie and to like the Mr. Bertram animated series on there is a lot of the fans were sort of like, we wanted content that didn't talk about this stuff all the time. We didn't want to see gay people in media. We didn't want to see trans people in media. This is what we don't want to see. So they're putting that out there as like satire, parody, comedy, or like something like that, because the reality is they understand that entertainment does require you to include people that aren't just like you. You have to have that sort of highs and lows in it. And they don't know how to make media like that. Like, honestly, the fans of that probably would go, like, if you wanted to make a generic Mission Impossible with literally no diversity at all, they'd probably be on board with that, right? That would be something their fans would probably watch. Or a Roseanne clone, like something like that probably would work. But they don't. They keep going back to media about minorities, about marginalized communities, about women, about trans people, about gay people. They keep going back to that because that is the only thing they know how to make fun of. They can't make fun of themselves.
Yeah.
They only know how to make fun of other people.
I have a question for you all. I'm not sure if you noticed me grabbing a book off my shelf a second there.
I thought you were about to do something else on your desk.
What? No, I'm not going to whip that out. No, I'm wearing jeans today. We keep them on. Thank you very much. I don't want to get your channel demonetized. You ever read this or see this? This is, you know what this is?
Angels in America. I have seen that.
Book.
Yeah.
I've seen the HBO miniseries, I want to say.
Oh yeah, it's same text. So you've seen the play basically, just on a filmed version. It's one of the best versions of it too. Well, one of the most accessible anyway. For those of you guys who don't know, Angels in America is a 1992-93 play by Tony Kushner. This won the I want to say it was one of those big play awards. It's a gay fantasia of America. It's the AIDS crisis, basically, as told through the lens of an epic poem, much like the Iliad or the Odyssey, just in modern day New York. I want to say it is. 2-part play. It is a masterpiece. If I
never got to see it, unfortunately. So.
Watch the HBO version. It's on streaming.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's good.
It's excellent. Okay. Oh, it's excellent. Yeah, it's if Zaslav hasn't making it off of Max, watch. It's fantastic. But it's a great epic narrative. 92. This was the same year. This is right after Silence of the Lambs came out. So the idea that we have not had great literature about that. Go back to Howl, that's like the Beatniks. That's the 50s even, you have some great queer literature that exists. And not just like, oh, it's like a coming out story. Oh, they're just gay and they want to have a romance. No, this is like high end narratives. And when people act like, oh, this queer stuff only started like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, there is so much great literature. Hell, go back to Walt Whitman. Half his poems were about him having some fun times in the woods.
Right.
Bram Stoker wrote erotic letters about his fantasies of Walt Whitman. Mary Shelley wrote about wanting to be with other women back in the 18. You know, there is so much queer literature people do not know about that exist, that have taken root in the foundations, the bedrock of society. Hell, Frankenstein, the whole story of Frankenstein is a queer story. It's about a man who creates life on his own without a woman. Huh. In the film version, it's him and a guy, Fritz, I think the assistant in the first Frankenstein film is. Igor comes later. It's just two guys living in a house making a baby together. Mm-hmm. There's nothing straight about that. And James Whale, the director, was an extremely gay director. And his gayness is evident in all of his films, not just simply...
Yeah.
I see the comments that mention the oldest story ever. Yeah, Epic of Gilgamesh. It's two men with a very close relationship who sleep together without clothing on.
I actually think that the grifty guys have a trouble with any real, and this is no offense to some of the media they review, but like high concept stories, like things where everything is not so overt. It's always like some sort of subtext, or even if it is in your face, it's too highbrow for them to understand. Because I truly believe a lot of the issue they have is their audience is media illiterate. Like a vast majority of the people that follow their content are media illiterate.
Are they media illiterate is the question too.
Yeah.
Doubts about some of them.
Bombshell indictment. U.S. prosecutors allege a media company linked to conservative influencers who regularly reach millions, including Benny Johnson, was secretly funded by Russian state media employees.
And a little busy this week in the old news section of the internet. Russia, the village boys. Russia, the village boys.